This is the most spiritual place in America.
Friends or family really were worried that it was some kind of cult or religion.
And they have certain principles that they believe will help them be more enlightened as they continue to grow there.
So you're conducting an experiment where people aren't the subjects, but a city is.
An entire community.
Experimentation is the foundation of progression. It's as human as curiosity itself. But strangely, what's never been done is scaling an experiment up, way up, to the size of a city.
In the middle of Iowa is what many consider to be the most progressive city in the U.S.
With a community of people that have outlawed non-organic food, dedicate their lives to sustainability, and practice meditation twice daily,
This is the Maharishi Vedic City. In our world, toxins can take us down, and they often do.
Doctors, psychologists, and therapists are treating teens for depression and anxiety at a greater rate than ever before.
This country's recent surge in opioid addiction.
Americans are fat and getting fatter.
The rise in allergies,
bowel cancer,
depression, childhood diabetes,
melanoma cases,
reduced IQ.
Why in the world someone would eat laundry detergent?
But the tide.
Whether these negative influences be coincidental or self-inflicted, just about everyone in America knows someone who is affected. And for a particular group of people, enough was enough. So they, under guidance from one of the most influential people of the time, created a city that set out to solve these problems. And the result, a complex and overwhelming study on what a city can be.
Everything that you've seen has its origin in just a simple idea for an experiment.
In Maharishi Vedic City, one of the factors that attempts to solve the toxic issues of humanity is Transcendental Meditation.
Through that experience of transcending is a whole new style of functioning, of being restful and alert at the same time.
When people meditate together, they have an effect on people around them as well.
And because of this, the entire city comes together twice a day to utilize their collective energy.
This is one of the most deeply spiritual places in America.
Friends or family really were worried that it was some kind of cult or religion. This is just what we like to do, and it's what works for us.
Another factor to the experiment is their unique style of architecture that attempts to utilize the energy of the universe.
By law of the City Council, every house is a Maharshi Vastu house.
All of these houses are committed to sustainable living and produce enough energy to power surrounding communities, many of which are nearby farms. Which brings up another point. The city has strict agricultural regulations that limit what foods are consumed in the city limits.
Vedic City has an ordinance that requires all the land in the city limits to be farmed organically.
On top of that, even the education system is focused around these radical ideals.
This has been really the world's first what we call consciousness-based education system.
One of the most popular attractions to the city that brings in celebrities like Oprah, Jim Carrey, and David Lynch is the Raj Health Spa, which uses Ayurvedic or ancient alternative treatments for those same toxins.
By detoxing the body, you expand your awareness. People have a lot of toxicity. Ayurveda means knowledge of life, knowledge of the physiology, knowledge of health. It's the ancient medicine from India. Physiology only has certain abilities to cleanse itself. There are two types of impurities and toxins, water-soluble and fat-soluble. I'll take a break.
Sorry.
It's okay. We should look into that. No, I'm just...
Need to be cleansed.
Essentially, the Raj is a health spa that focuses on mind-body healing. But the practices here are also applied in the city via the residents. In fact, one practice in particular has spread to the mainstream in the past 10 or so years. This practice is meditation. Harris?
If you meditate, you are among the 14% of Americans that have used meditation as a medicinal alternative for better living. Around the world, people practice the calming chants of mantra meditation, the reaffirming words of loving kindness meditation, and even the mystical intoxication of Sufi whirling. And while practiced in countless ways, each and every person who meditates is working towards a similar goal. Whether it be greater understanding of oneself, connection with a higher being, improved decision-making, focus, attentiveness, presentness, or a simple moment of rest, The hope is to improve a person's life in some way. Being often looked at as a gateway to a happier life, millions of people have brought some form of meditation into their daily routines. And with most things in this world, there's a group of people that take this practice to a different level. Fitting that bill is Maharishi Vedic City, where every single resident practices Transcendental Meditation, a technique spread throughout the world by its creator, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi.
I've been teaching Transcendental Meditation for 40-50 years in the world. One's own consciousness cannot be difficult to anyone.
The goal of Transcendental Meditation is to dissociate oneself into a total void of thought by repeating an individually cultivated mantra, and as the name suggests, transcend.
In Transcendental Meditation, you just settle down and experience consciousness itself. Your individual experiencer expands to just that state of silence, of wholeness. So some people may talk about it's like a wave settling down to the ocean. The wave is the individual thinker, the individual thought. As it becomes less, it expands. At some point, it just becomes the ocean. And so you experience that, the water, which is making up the content of the wave.
After it was introduced, millions of people around the world set out to transcend using this technique. And one group saw so many benefits that they built an entire city around it. Quickly, TM became the fastest growing health trend in America, and with data from the residents that support their growth as individuals and in effect the entire community, what?
Just hold on, Harris. What we're gonna need is a little history. It's 1968, and the most trusted man in America, Walter Cronkite, incited the country.
For it seems now more certain than ever that the bloody experience of Vietnam is to end in a stalemate.
The march in Washington drew an estimated 500,000 people, the largest anti-war demonstration in the nation's history. The war was dividing the country.
In this fractured nation, some even revolted from the hate, forming the most famous counterculture to date, the hippie movement. Full of momentum, love, happiness, freedom, and peace, this movement absorbed the world's biggest names.
Do you think that your movement or your idea, the hip idea, is essentially connected up with drugs?
Yeah, I would say that's a large part of the framework. You know, I think personally that the more people turn on, the better world it's going to be.
The point is that in order to use your head, you have to go out of your mind.
That's Timothy Leary, probably the greatest advocate for LSD.
And I recommend that you consider legislation which will license responsible adults to use these drugs for serious purposes such as spiritual growth, the pursuit of knowledge, or in their own personal development.
Public enemy number one in the United States is drug abuse.
Eventually, the government won, and the psychedelic movement began to dwindle.
You know, the gate's open. You know, do your thing, man. Here, give them some coke. All Charlie's friends get free coke. Give them responsibility for the children that they said that I influenced. You know, you wouldn't drop the blame.
5 persons, including actress Sharon Tate, were found dead at the home of Miss Tate and her husband, screen director Roman Polanski.
This newly formed culture of psychedelic drugs was used to blame deaths, look down upon, and ultimately cause the slow unfolding of this radical movement.
Police officer, open the door.
But many people found other ways to expand their consciousness. With the influence of Eastern spiritualism, meditation took over. In fact, the Beatles caught wind of the Transcendental Meditation practice and its creator, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. They traveled to Rishikesh, India for a retreat with their newly found guru, and when they returned, denounced drug use in favor of TM. But it wasn't just the Beatles. Many Americans became hooked on Maharishi's teachings and principles. So much so that in 1973, the Maharishi University of Management was founded based on those teachings and ideals. People flocked to this little town of Fairfield in the middle of Iowa to go to this school that was unlike any other. In 2001, as some of those same students got older, they decided to do something radical. Maharishi had a vision of a city, a Vedic city, and these people put it into action.
And so that community all, kind of abides by those principles.
There are some people that really like the idea, and there's a power to people who all think similarly, and they have certain principles that they believe will help them be more enlightened as they continue to grow there. And that's what Maharishi Vedic City has become. A town that actually supports evolution of the individual as the #1 priority.
Out of everything that goes on in Maharishi Vedic City, meditation seems to have the strongest impact towards the evolution of each individual. And oftentimes, everyone meditates together in the largest meditation dome in America.
365 days a year, twice a day. We come in, and the purpose of this is to experience quieter and more powerful levels of our own thinking process and plumb the depths of our own potential. So, shall we have a look inside?
Yeah.
Come with me.
Holy cow.
And you can almost feel the peace in here. You can almost feel the silence, because there's been over 1 million hours of meditation in these domes.
It's amazing to me because it's such a small community around it. And to fill up 450 twice a day, every day.
And inside this massive structure takes place an unusual and perhaps mysterious exercise.
If you are fully developed, is you have mastery over nature. And this is where it starts to sound unusual. Some people find it quite unusual. But throughout history, there have been over 600 saints historically documented who could levitate. Well documented. So
now we're talking.
So, okay, levitation. So
in the pictures where you see people.
But some people lie down. Some people in the Persian areas would sit on a flying carpet. This is documented all over the world.
And while Valerie is speaking of actual levitation, many of the experienced meditators hop, like she said, which looks like this. Another key aspect of Vedic City is the completely sustainable architecture that each building follows. For that, we met up with the man responsible for the buildings in the city in arguably the most sustainable building in America, where John teaches.
If the sun's out, you don't have to turn lights on in any room in this building. Even the bathrooms, which are completely interior spaces, have windows that borrow light from the central corridor. So that's a way in which we made a sustainable building which takes maximum south light and also of east light. And we have the irony that we're here on a really cloudy day, and so it's so dimly lit right now. There are lights somewhere, and we can get them on. I don't remember where they are.
Well, that's okay.
You're able
That's funny that you don't know where the lights are.
We turn them on so rarely.
Okay, there we go.
We have solar thermal panels on the roof of this building which heat water. You know, if sunlight shines down on a car and the interior is painted black and the windows are up, the inside of that car gets super hot. So we use that principle to superheat water, and that water gets stored in a tank, and in the winter time it's circulated through the floor of this building, and that is how this building is heated. The sun heats water, the water heats the floor, we feel comfortable. What's more, the electricity burnt in this building is generated by this building. This building generates about 5 times as much electricity as it uses.
So does it kind of like drive you nuts that most buildings aren't like this?
Well, yes, it drives me nuts, but we wanted to build something which would be the display that would inspire other people to do that.
Absolutely.
In addition to the building for sustainable living, in Maharishi Vedic City, all of the buildings must follow a similar architectural design. but the most impressively sustainable is John's house.
So one thing is that this is a Maharshi Vastu house, and that is a way of integrating it into nature and creating nourishing influences on us who live in it.
And how about shoes?
Let's take them off.
Okay.
Well, we built about $350 million worth of buildings here in the United States, so it's housing for 700, 800, 900, 1,000 people, plus a lot of people in office buildings and in school buildings.
How about in Vedic City?
Well, everybody in Vedic City.
Every house in Vedic City.
By law of the city council, every house is a Maharshi Vastu house.
Okay, and what are the criteria to make it be Maharishi Vastu?
One way is that we understand that the direction that we face for certain primary activities either supports our mental functioning or actually weakens our mental functioning. And so, for instance, the main seats at the dining table face east. My bed, we sleep with our heads to the east. And the stove, when we're cooking, we're facing east. When we're doing dishes, we're facing north. These are directions that create more nourishing influences on us. And that east and north-facing buildings have all nourishing influence. East is the very best. It connects us to the rising sun, to that organizing intelligence of the entire solar system. And our direction of travel on planet Earth is to the east. The Earth is a ball that is spinning to the east.
So we'll just use this shot from our Subtropolis episode to explain this concept. The idea is that subconsciously, this feels better than this, because things are coming at you rather than going away. Now apply that to the stars and the cosmos. When you face east, it's more comfortable when the stars come at you, and facing west is slightly more unsettling. Because life has evolved with this constantly occurring for billions of years, the idea is that we feel more comfort facing east.
People's mental health differs depending on the direction that their house faces. That people who have the worst mental health live in houses that face south. Even burglary rates are much higher for south-facing houses. So there are real statistics that back up the knowledge in this ancient system that east-facing houses and north-facing houses give us support from nature.
And is that pretty universally accepted from an architectural standpoint?
No, it's completely unknown.
Really?
Yeah. I will say that many indigenous cultures around the world have the knowledge, have the opinion that houses should face east. We have a meditation room in this house.
Okay.
You'll notice that this room is in the northeast. And this is because the differing qualities of the sun's energy have the effect that when you're in the northeast corner of a building, the quality inherent in it is to cause your mind to settle down, which supports transcending, which is good for meditating.
Sure, yeah. So is there a reason why there's not a window here?
Just up to me.
Okay.
Completely up to me.
Some things are just up to you.
But another thing is I'm an architect and I have my own interests and my own quirks and my own personalities.
Yeah.
And since we recommend ideally that houses face east, it means that each house is facing the back of another house. It sounds like a inhospitable gesture.
Sure.
Like it would not support good social relations.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Something about the design of this community seems to sponsor better social intercourse rather than isolation. So to me, what we're doing in reviving these ancient Vedic principles of architecture and city planning is creating consequences which are unknown to us.
Okay, east-facing houses, a process of thought reform, a charismatic leader.
Remember the Maharishi, the Beatles guru? He's being sued. His cult's been labeled dangerous.
There's no question that the TM movement is strictly insane.
And does he believe all of his rhetoric? I don't think so.
So we brought it up. You see the houses side by side and the communal aspect of things.
Right.
So I can definitely see why people would say, oh, that's a cult.
Well, I think cult gets a bad name, and I was raised Catholic, so does that mean the Catholic Church is a cult? It's really, I guess it's not where anyone's made to do anything, and there's no I guess brainwashing or, it's really giving you the power. I feel like cults, the bad definition of cults is more taking the power from the people, and there's power at the top. And with this, it's empowering yourself, and then go into the world and do what you're going to do. There was kind of a generation of people who moved here because of Maharishi, and that probably obviously, had the cult feel to it. And
some people are more into it in different respects than others.
They call it the movement. Some people are more into the movement, and that to me does kind of have a cultish word, so I kind of avoid using that one.
In fact, one of Maharishi's visions was to establish a group of what he would refer to as pundits. And up until a few years ago, around 1,000 pundits lived in a smaller commune within the city limits and dedicated their lives to meditating twice a day. Their goal was to spread good fortune across all of the world.
A group of Vedic pundits who will perform yogic flying and Vedic yagyas, and the effect will be harmony and integration in the whole world consciousness.
With multiple generations being raised in this environment and similar concepts being spread around the world, Vedic City seems destined.
And so we're living in a kind of cutting-edge community that I think is going to set an example for the rest of America.
Do you ever get worried that you're just totally wrong?
The value of science is that we can find out objectively whether something is having good or bad results. And we're relying on that as we're conducting this experiment in the 21st century and reviving these ancient, even timeless principles.
Yeah, so you're conducting an experiment where people aren't the subjects, but a city is.
An entire community.
Yeah. Do you know of anything else like that?
I don't think it's happening anywhere else in the world. There are other Vastu communities being built around the world. This was the first. We'll have more data in another generation. Check back in then.
All right.
Take it what you will, Vedic City is contributing to humanity. Success or failure, people here have dedicated their lives to their beliefs. And no matter what, the end result of any experimentation is progress. What kind of experimental city would you live in? Comment below. Also, be sure to subscribe and turn your notifications on so we can explore something new together.